Okay, so here we are again doing another Masters class video. This is actually number 14. It's going to be on determining your stage 2 because it's not always backcrossing. And let me turn off. People are they're letting everybody know inside the groups page that we're on.
Yeah,
And
I was hoping everybody wouldn't forget.
yeah, so what we're going to do is I'll be editing this. And a lot of this intro stuff will all be replaced and taken out. So I'm not worried about making it perfect. This is a show that we will go over again and then put banners. I did create banners, some banners if we need it. So I have a few announcements before we get going. For those of you who live in Kentucky and happen to live fairly close to Frank, let Frank know. And I don't know if we'll be able to visit everybody. And it'll depend on where you live and how close you live to each other. But we're only going to have a day or two to really go from farm to farm. And it's one of those things where Frank's going to have to kind of estimate how long it's going to take to get there, how long we can stay at each place. It could be that we only able to stay, 45 minutes, Frank?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
If that.
But we'll visit with you, talk with you. If you want, don't mind. We can do a little recording for the podcast. I got my daughter coming with me, so she's going to video if it's okay with you guys. We won't do anything without your guys' permission. And whatever we can use for the show, that'd be great. And it should be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be, I'm coming in September. I know a lot of the birds may or may not be looking good at that time. I don't really care about that. I just want to meet you guys, talk with you and all that, and meet you guys in person. That should be fun.
I think that's the main thing. Just get out and visit, and have interaction with the members. And a lot of them, we've got a pretty good amount here, but they're kind of spread out. Like Kenny was talking about, we'll just have to contact me either through Facebook or email. And we'll try to work out something to, a mapping system to where we can start out that morning. Kenny's going to try to be here for 2 days, so hopefully we can get some of them covered. We wasn't able to do this the last time he come in. We just had other things. We did not sit down really until late those evenings, very late those evenings. But hopefully this time we can get out and do the fun stuff and meet the members and go to the farms.
Yeah, because last time Frank was basically showing me around his town and the towns nearby, and then we went to his farm, and it was just to get to know and get to see Kentucky, because Nancy and I are always looking for, just in case we need to, if we're tired of California or it comes to time to, that we have to move for any reason, we want to know where we would go. And Kentucky's always one of our choices. We've thought about Florida. We're really not sure. I'm trying to stay here as long as I can. I do like San Diego. I do like California. There's some things about California I don't like, but the weather is nice here. There's a lot to do here. So it would have to take a lot for me to move, actually. But there's a lot of things about Kentucky I do like. So it's one of the places we're keeping an eye on. So that was one of the things we were doing when I visited Frank last time. Also, Frank's coming to visit me in May. And he's going to be here 4 days. Okay. 2 of those days are going to be travel, but he's still going to be spending some time with us. And we have those days totally planned out. We're going to be doing so much. We're going to be doing a podcast, which is going to be, we're going to pre-record our 100th episode.
Yep.
And we're going to be doing a live while he's here. It'll probably be on a Friday. It won't be on a Thursday. And doing some videos. I have a list of videos that I need to do. Well, Frank's going to help me get those done, so
that's going to be fun.
Yeah. And we're going to carry wireless mics with us too. So if we happen to say something really important,
not like last time we tried to, the last time the conversation that we ended up making a podcast out of, that we had in my kitchen after dinner, it was so great. And after it was over with, me and Kenny both said, man, we should have recorded that. So Kenny said, we'll take care of that next time. We'll put the cordless mics on us next time, and we'll keep them on us, and we'll just record everything. So that way we won't miss out on it next time.
Yeah. So We're going to make sure we don't make that mistake again. Hey, Steve, good to see you.
Hey,
Yeah. And so what's going to happen here? Well, I got a couple more announcements. If you haven't checked out the founders program lately, I've reorganized it, restructured a little bit, kind of remodeled the page, put a lot of the different segments and stages and phases into their own banners. If there's not a video in there, we just haven't got to it. There will be videos for all those pages. We're working on this. What we're going to be doing right now is going to be one of them. They're going to be inside those banners. Yeah. And so Nancy went in there, started yelling at me about the way it was set up and thought it should be better. So after enough of that, I changed it. So, so make sure you check that out. Hopefully it's easier to navigate and understand and follow. Like I said, this is going to be we're filming a raw version. A lot of what we're talking about now will be taken out, and we'll be editing it, putting more banners. Whatever we don't use today or any new ones I create will go in, and then that'll go into the Founders Program and the Masters Class video page. Pretty soon, you're going to notice that the Masters Class video page is going to be different too. It's going to be similar to the video archive. It's going to have the video, the description, and then a link to take you to the show notes and the pages that they are representing. Hopefully that'll make it easier for you too. Now, as far as questions, comments during this particular show, we'll address them, answer them, talk about them if they're relevant to what we're talking about. Okay. If it's a question that's different, then we're going to answer it at the end. We're going to try to do like a little bit of a Q&A at the end of the show. So for any of you that have some questions that don't relate to this, but you want to ask us questions, we'll do that at the end of the show. And there's a link on this page. What's it called? The members live video page, where you could actually come on the screen with us and you can talk with us. We can do that, and we'll do that all at the end. Okay. Because it's not a huge outline, but Frank and I, we can really drag things out, man.
we can take 5 words and make a book about it, really.
Yeah. So I have a lot to say about things, and then I restructure the text, add some illustrations to the program, and I keep improving that as we go too. So, Frank, if I'm not going to be looking at the comments, so if you see anything that is relevant that you think we should be talking about, then go ahead and put them on the screen and we'll include them. So is that all we need to talk about?
Poor Steve, before we get started, Steve, it says any snow removal devices, LOL. I know where you're coming from, buddy. I've seen on the news what you guys are getting at in that area, and I know your pain, man. I do. This weather can suck now, I'll tell you, but just stay warm. The main thing, keep those chickens nice and comfortable, and just wait it out. It should be good for you in the next week or so. So just hang in there, buddy.
Don't ask me. We get snow once in a while, but then it melts right away. So,
well, I just got through telling Kenny right before I come in here, it started snowing, but it's just flurries. We had a little bit last night and today, and I can, says, let me put this up, 30 plus inches. So, man, I feel for you. I feel for you, man. I sure do.
I always wonder how bad it is when it melts.
Yes. Hello, Melissa.
Hey, Melissa. Okay. You ready to go, Frank?
Ready to go, buddy.
Feel like it's all backstage stuff, doesn't it?
It really feels that way. It's a different, I guess when we do the members, I'm a little bit more relaxed and laid back than when we do the live show. I don't know why, but I have no idea. I just feel more comfortable, when we do the members show for some reason.
I'm comfortable. I'm not nervous or nothing, even on the live show. Maybe I'm just more relaxed and not in a hurry.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I'm going to edit all this.
Yeah.
This video will be available for you guys to watch until I edit it, and then I'll replace the edited, fixed up version with this one.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is, Kenny, that this we know can basically be a recording, can be edited.
Yeah.
The live show's a little bit different. What's said, what's done is done. So I think that may be the difference.
Yeah. Plus, we know the members like us. We already know that. We
Yeah,
don't know
that's
about the
true.
other people.
That's true. Got some maybes in those bunches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about determining your stage 2. Last time we talked about stage 1. Stage 2 is we normally use backcrossing to do stage 2, but it doesn't always have to be the case. I mean, there's other reasons why we might want to do it differently than backcrossing. So before we got into stage 2, because the next video will be on backcrossing, where we'll go in depth on backcrossing, the pros and cons, what it's all about, how to do it properly, and how it works with the Founders Program. But we are going to talk about today, and I have no problem. I'm a big repetitious guy, so things are going to overlap, and that's how I want it. Okay. So, but we want to make sure, by understanding the different stage 2s, we want to make sure that backcrossing is the right action for you, because like I said, it's not always the way, and you do have multiple choices. The choices you have would be obviously backcrossing, inbreeding, and line breeding. And we're going to talk about these 3 choices so that you can determine which one's best for you. Okay. You can jump in anytime, Frank.
Okay.
But yeah, I do caution you, don't automatically jump. Here's what everybody wants to do is, and you see this, let me put this up. And this is a good example of it. And this is a very popular program, and I don't want you to do it. But this is what everybody sees, or everybody tries to do, or everybody is encouraged to do when they get a trio. When they buy a cock and 2 hens, this is what everybody thinks they should do. Okay, so I don't want you to think, and this basically is line breeding for the most part, but the way they start isn't right. There's a lot of things I think should happen before you start line breeding. And when they get to the end of the line breeding program, then all they do is they cross the 2 lines. And we're going to talk about, I don't want to get too in depth in this, because this is one of the programs we are going to talk about, and we're going to address, and we're going to show you maybe some of the pros, but we're going to basically showing you the cons so that you can see why we set up the Founders Program the way we did, because it does have its issues. So, but this is what they do most of the time. But I don't want you to get that trio, and I don't want you to get the trio and then jump right into line breeding. And that's what everybody wants to do. Matter of fact, it's one of those things that you rarely do when you do it properly. And we're going to talk about that too.
But Kenny, when you threw that chart up there just now, I have 3 words for that whole chart.
Mm-hmm.
Too much variation.
Yeah.
You can see it there. I mean, there's just too much. I don't know what it is. I go back, I look at myself 20, 25 years ago, and for some reason, us breeders, we want to open it up so big. We want to sort of like breed away from everything this way, and that's exactly what you're doing, except for the end. But and you're mainly doing a line cross there. But it's just, I take one look at that, and I just see way too much variation. As that's all I can say.
But Frank, it's not really line crossing, because we're not crossing 2 lines that are from the same family, really. Because what we have is, a lot of times what we have is, we have a cock and we have 2 hens that are sometimes sisters, but they're usually not related to the cock. Or there are 3 birds that are totally not related, and they're the product of crossing. They're mongrels. They're mixed birds. So he's exactly right that it's all about so much variation, so much genetic diversity, because that cock is bred to, say, line the hen 1. Okay, then she's line bred to her offspring all the way to 15, 16, 7, 8. And then the cock was also bred to hen 2, and she was line bred to her offspring all the way to 7, 8, 15, 16. And then they're brought together. So all the genetic diversity, all the variation that cock entered into the offspring with those 2 hens, are all going in 2 different directions, because even though you have 2 hens that are sisters, they're not exactly alike, and they don't have the exact genetics. So they're going to be different. And whenever you take them in two different directions and get to the end of it, the genome of one line is completely different in many ways to the other line due to the fact that the cock is the variable, the variable that's actually creating all the genetic diversity. So you have the fact that the two hens aren't identical, then you have the cock that gives the variance, then you go in two different directions and you bring them together. And because they're not two true lines of the same family, all you did was cross them. Okay. All you did was mongrelize them even more. So yeah, I'm glad you said that, Frank.
Yeah, mess everything. Well, what it does, it messes everything up. When you come out there and you make that, bring them back together again, it's just creating more stuff that you went through and tried to clean up, pretty much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shoot yourself in the foot, I guess, Kenny.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've already shot yourself in the foot even before you begun.
Right.
Just from the method that you're using. Yeah. And we talk, I almost forget that we can even talk about this because I was almost going to go around it. But, we always say, don't get a trio and breed to that cock to those two hens. If you get a trio, and a lot of times we encourage you not to get a trio. If you get a trio, really look those hens. Oh, those hens. I can't talk all of a sudden. I shouldn't have had the coffee. I'm telling you, dried out my mouth really bad. Obviously, I'm going to cut that out. When you get two hens, look for the hen that's better. Okay, because I always say it. There's always only one Adam, and there's always one Eve. There's not two Adams. There's not two Eves. Okay, and there's a reason for that. And we talked a lot about that in stage 1 in the last video. But when you look at the 3 choices that we have, which is backcrossing, inbreeding, and line breeding, each of them has their benefit and each of them has their detriment, okay, depending on the quality of the seed fowl that you're starting with and the quality of the offspring that they produce. So that will determine which method you use, okay?
Yeah, because the thing about one good point you brought up there a while ago, Kenny, was on the two hens. Really, it's going to save you money. You don't need that extra hen because if you do your homework, you go out and you select them. You should be selecting the better hen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just bringing 2 home to discard one. Fowl's not cheap these days. Even the bad ones are not cheap. You're going to pay high dollars for either, and you've got to have it, to where what you need. You're matching that cock with the hen. That's the main thing. So, to bring a hen home that's any less than the other, you're just wasting money. You're ending up not going to use her anyway. So get that hen that you want to begin with. And not only that saves you a faster process within making your string. And not only that, it saves you some money at the same time.
Yep. Most are starting with hybrid crosses, unrelated mates, or mongrels. Okay. And it's the reason why the Founders Program, the first few stages, is set up like that. And although some are starting with what we would call established line from a breeder who has a family, and let's say he does give you a cock and hens that are highly inbred, they're well bred, they're related. It doesn't exactly mean that you're going to go right to line breeding. Okay. And we're going to talk about that too. So there's some reasons why you might, and there's some reasons why you don't.
I would, we say this like a broke record, Kenny, regardless of who I got them from. If you come and get them from Kenny, you come and get them from me. I would recommend you run them from the start, use them as seed fowl and run them through the program because, what me and Kenny breed, we've got a specific way that we breed certain things we look for. Your taste may be different. There may be something that, that she want to breed that me and Kenny doesn't want to breed. Now, that's not a good or bad thing. It's just choices of the breeder. Like Kenny's black pearls, with the mascara ring. Maybe you don't want the mascara ring, around the eyes. Simple things like that, that makes their fowl unique to us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would just assume that they're either going to change on their own or you're going to change them. I just would assume that. Okay. So like we said, some of these methods are going to have their benefits and detriments, but the main goal is to get to the foundation phase as soon as possible without sacrificing the effects of having too many contrasting characteristics which are due to the genetic diversity that's within the genome of those birds. So, and if the whole idea is to get that cleaned up, get there to the foundation phase as fast as you can, and get past those or clean up those unwanted variations so that you don't have to deal with them later down the road. Okay.
And from the start, that way you're going to have, you're going to have some variations that, can be useful. That's good. And just like Kenny said, you're going to have some that you definitely want to get rid of.
Yeah. In this phase of the program, so we're going to discuss these 3 methods so that you can decide which one's best for you. And then just know that we're going to describe them in much greater detail as we go through the Founders Program, because once we finish this particular video, which is determining stage 2, we're going to run through the programs. We're going to run through the methods as if it is the stage 2. Let's say it's the backcrossing. Okay, we'll just assume. Well, like this. See if I put up the right one.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way it's laid out, stage 2 is backcrossing. Now, if we think that we don't have to backcross it, and we're going to talk about what that would mean, then we might just go directly to the inbreeding and say we don't need to do the backcrossing, or we have fowl that are good enough, and we'll talk about what that means. And you might go right into the line breeding, which would save you all those steps, but you better make darn sure you're ready for the line breeding process. Because if you skip those other methods and you're not ready for it, you're going to find out really quickly, and you're going to think you did something wrong. Mm-hmm. So this is why this is important. And there are times when I do a coaching call with someone, they tell me what they're dealing with, how they got the fowl, how they've been progressing all this time, how the fowl look. The offspring are getting better than the parents. They're actually becoming uniform, consistent. And I've had some of them go right to line breeding because it wasn't necessary. They got it from a particular breeder. They said they were a true family, and they proved that they were. So I'm okay with that. But let's make sure.
Yeah, because like you said, if not, it's going to be you're going to know it real fast just by the outcome of the offspring. You're going to figure it out real fast.
So I'm thinking about how I want to say this. Now, I had a member recently who I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, okay. So he didn't have chickens. He had I'm trying to remember what he had. It was some kind of livestock. And he looked over the Founders Program. He was about ready to quit because he just had a real problem with the inbreeding, And I said, well, because you have an animal, a mammal, I can see where you could be concerned with the inbreeding. And there's other ways to get around it. So I had him talk to me, and I showed him how we can work around the inbreeding and go right to the line breeding. But even, if you look at Robert Bakewell, who was a breeder of, I believe, horses, sheep. What else did he breed? He was famous, some cattle, I think, too. But he's like the father of selective breeding, because before him, we were just kind of crossing everything all over the place, trying to breed best of the best. We're never really trying to create a family. And he was the one who actually showed it that it could be done, but it couldn't be done without inbreeding. And he wasn't a chicken breeder. He was mainly a sheep breeder, I believe, and a horse breeder. Okay. And he used that method, and with great success with those animals, and was able to create, new breeds, new strains, showing other farmers how to do that. That's why we call him the founding father of selective breeding. So and I have some goat breeders, sheep breeders too, that they're using the inbreeding and getting great results. It's just knowing how much to do and when to stop. So, but what I'm trying to say is, I think it can be done. I can understand why you guys might be concerned with it. And there's ways to get around it if that's what you absolutely want to do. But, there's some consequences to it. And it may mean that it takes a little longer for you to get there. Okay. So I don't want you to think that that depending on what you have, that you have to inbreed. I won't say that. I would encourage you to, and I think it's better, but you don't have to. Okay. And then before you get to that, Frank, And then I had a chicken breeder, and this was probably a year ago, and he had the same feeling that he thought inbreeding was the worst thing ever. And Tony Seville, my mentor, me and him go back and forth on inbreeding. He totally hates it. He doesn't think you should ever do it. He sees only problems with it, and nothing I can do to get him to accept it or use it or believe in it. But he can never tell me why, other than he thinks that, they'll start growing 2 heads and 7 legs and all that kind of stuff, and that they'll just go downhill and they'll suffer from inbreeding depression. And all my experiences, everything I've read, the geneticists that I've worked with, believe that inbreeding is the only way to get there. My experiences has proved that. The experiences I've seen through my members has proved that. And with chickens, birds, you can do a lot of inbreeding before you run into problems. And we'll talk about, like I said, I actually think that the inbreeding videos that we're going to do, well, the inbreeding stage and the inbreeding course is probably, I'd be surprised if it wasn't multiple videos, Frank. I can't see us getting that one done in one video.
Yeah, I agree. But, Kenny, I know I don't want birds that can't handle inbreeding. If they can't handle one, what we're doing right here, I don't want them. I don't need them, because that tells me that genetically they're unfit, unsuitable for me. That's the way I look at it. You ask 50 questions, you're going to get 1,000 different answers from it on anything. But over time, inbreeding has proven many, many times, and has made many, many, many successful breeders over the years. Yeah. You look at a lot of these breeders today, some even old school. A lot of your old school doesn't believe in inbreeding, but a lot of them do. And the ones that's doing it are successful in doing what they're doing. They're right up there with everyone else, as far as the bird's been successful. So, when you see the results over and over again on something, it has to be because not everybody can do one particular method and get by with it. But it seems like if the inbreeding part is done and done the way it's supposed to be, it can be successfully used just about every time.
Yeah. And although I understand the concerns breeders have, like of mammals, when it comes to birds, like chickens, I'd really encourage you to try to embrace inbreeding the best you can, because it's going to get you there faster. So do you want, before we get into the 3 methods, is there any questions we need to answer?
We just had one from Steve here, and he goes, I have my Adam and Eve that are off what I call dirty gray and a BB hen, and I plan going on to the red side. How many inbreedings will I need before to start my line breeding?
Okay, well, it's hard to answer without looking at them and seeing what the offspring are producing and how well they look. Okay. And then there might be other issues other than color. You might have conformation issues and things like that. So it's a hard one to answer. But if that's your Adam and Eve, and obviously you're going to breed them. One's a gray, a dirty gray. The other one's a BB red, the hen. Okay. You're going to breed those together. You're going to take the best stags that are the best conformation, the best type, and the best red color that you have, and breed it back to the hen. Forget the cock. He's done his job. He got the line started. Get rid of him. Okay. Once we breed that best son back to his mother, and we look at the offspring again, there is a chance you might have to do one more back cross, but there's a chance you'll get there, because when you breed the recessive red to a recessive red, well, let's put it this way. Let me think. Okay. Yeah. The Adam, which is a dirty gray, because he's gray, but he shows and carries the recessive red, is going to produce stags that are red and gray. And he's also going to produce red and gray hens or pullets. So we should get some red sons, and hopefully you get good enough selection to breed it back to the mother. And then we'll look at the offspring and then decide from there whether we do an inbreeding. That if breeding his son her son back to her is good enough the first time to get offspring that are free of defects, that are not sick, have good conformation, good type, good color, represent their breed. If we can get at least one stag and one pullet, or one sister and one brother, and breed them together, then we're good to go. Now, I can't tell you that without looking them over and see where you're at. Okay. But
Well,
just assuming that everything goes the way it should go, then what was he saying?
he goes, okay, I'm sorry, I already have the brother and sister.
And how
So
they
he's,
look.
yeah,
Yeah, how they look.
that would be my question. How they look. Did you get the color red that you did? Was confirmation good on them? Was it defect free?
Because understand this, that even though you're not going to get the gray when you breed the red son to his red mother or partridge mother, you're not going to get the gray. But is it the red you're looking for? Because it might, you know, depends on the hen. Now, he said it was a BB red hen. It wasn't like a Wheaton hen, right?
Yeah,
That's
BB red hen. Yeah,
that's good too.
yeah,
So,
BB red hen. So you've got that. Even though he didn't get what he needed this time, he could go back one more time if needed. But I'm like Kenny, he probably wouldn't have to. He should be able to. Lonesome confirmation is correct. No defects. As far as color wise, you should be. I think that was probably your biggest question, wasn't it, Steve? On
how many?
color.
Well,
How
he
many
was
times
worried
it
about
take
how
with
many
color?
inbreedings it would. The color is usually not the issue with that if he's going to the recessive side. The intensity or the quality of the color is a whole different story. Okay, depending on how good the hen was. Without seeing pictures of the hen and her son and the offspring that they produce, it's hard to say, you know. But you're gonna. I would do a back cross. I would go to the mother. I would take the son back to the mother once and not go right to brother and sister in the first one. I would do that, and then do your inbreeding, and then work your way through stage 4 to get to the foundation stage. Good. Yeah. Send me pictures and let me look at them. Definitely. Because I hate to give you a definite answer without really seeing the birds, because you might show me the birds and go, oh shoot, we got to do something a little different. Okay. It's hard to say. I would just be guessing.
Yeah, and just because you do it back crossing, Steve, doesn't mean that you necessarily got to go that route. If they don't turn out, as good as your others, you could always just scratch them and go back to the ones that you had prior to it. But at least with the back crossing, you've got a chance of getting better by doing that back crossing. So it'd be worth. I think it'd be worth the added time in to just see what you did get.
Okay, some of this we said, but I'm going to keep on going. So the first choice was back crossing. That's usually the typical. That's the choice we usually do, and it's the one I usually encourage people to do, especially when it comes to American games, because there's so much blood. There's so many different bloodlines in them. The genome it's got a lot of variation, genetic diversity that we need to weed through. So back crossing becomes a necessity. There was a time in the early days when we were first creating the founders program and we were working through it and I was giving to other people, that we didn't even include the back crossing. We went from stage 1, breeding the seed fowl, right to inbreeding. And although we got there, it just seemed like I noticed more people were having to do more inbreedings to get to the point where they could start their line breeding program. And so when I started talking to other breeders, and they were, saying, yeah, that's the problem I had. I would back cross back to one of the parents, and that would jumpstart. That would actually get me there sooner, because basically what was happening a lot of times, because of all the genetic diversity, is that we were breeding the seed birds, going right into inbreeding, and the birds weren't really better than the parents, and they had a lot of flaws. So we were starting the inbreeding process with birds with a lot of flaws, which means we got there eventually, but we would have got there faster if we did the back crossing. So once we started doing that, I saw a huge difference. And so whenever I do a coaching call and look at everybody's birds, and although my first thought, because that's how my mind thinks because of the olden days, is can we go right to the inbreeding? And almost 99% of the time, I look at what they have and I'm like, no, we need to do a back cross. And that really changed the game. So, but whenever so anyways, how do I want to say this? So backcrossing is, so just so you know, because there's a big difference between backcrossing and line breeding, and everybody gets those mixed up, is basically breeding because you're using seed fowl. They're usually not related. You're going to produce a hybrid cross. Okay. So basically backcrossing is breeding one of the parents to their offspring. So you're breeding a hybrid offspring back to the parents, which is completely different than line breeding. And now you might have noticed that I said parent, not parents, because we talked about this earlier, is that a lot of people think that they can breed to both parents, go in two different directions, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to pick one of the parents. Like Steve's situation, it was obvious because of the direction he wanted to go that we're not going to use that red. That red was the seacock. He was the Adam, but he had one job to get the family started, and then he's gone. We'll never use him again, ever. Get rid of him, do something with him. But the hen that he was bred to becomes important. We breed that to the offspring, and then off to the races we go.
That is a big misconception, because a lot of people, that's the first thing they want to do, and they get the back crossing and line breeding totally mixed up. That's the biggest mistake right there, I think, of getting the two mixed confused.
Yeah, and this is where most people fail. And I always say it. It's always right in the beginning. They always fail right in the beginning. They use the method like what we were talking about a second ago, and they try to go too broad, too early when creating their strain. And they try to utilize, because they spent so much money on it, they try to utilize every bird that they bought. So if they bought, a trio, they want to use every bird that they bought. If they bought a yard, what we call a cock and four hens, they want to use every hen. Okay. Or they buy two pairs, they want to create two families right off the bat. And I say, even if you buy two pairs, that just gave you a better selection. So I'm going to look at those two cocks. I'm going to say which cock was the best one, which hen out of the two was the best one. That's the direction I'll go. Put the other side for emergencies, or if you as a backup, and put those aside and go on. But you don't want to go broader. You want to go tighter. Okay. And we'll talk more about that later too. So this is why we don't recommend buying a trio. We always talk about, it's always best to buy a pair. If you're buying them in the mail, then I would buy two pairs so that you have the selection, because chances are, I see so many times people buy in the mail, you open the box, it's crazy what they pull out those boxes. They're usually birds. And because it has a name or it comes from a particular breeder, the person who's looking at the bird just all of a sudden goes blind because he doesn't see the faults that are in that bird, because all he sees is the name of the bird and the person he got it from. And, well, it must be a good bird. He sent it to me, and I'm going to make a family out of this no matter what. Okay. So, but if and I always encourage you to go pick them out yourself, then you can you can select the cock you want, select the hen you want. You could buy a pair. You don't need to buy a trio, and then you start from there.
Never listen to these guys that says, listen, I know my fowl better than you know them. Let me pick what you need. You're going to do better than doing that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Somebody with a good eye for confirmation and what a bird should have and what it shouldn't need is all going to go in there and have about the same 90% of the time, Kenny, somebody that's got a real good eye, you take 10 people that's got a real good eye, they'll go in literally and pick the same birds off a yard. If they're good at what they do, you take 10 people, they'll all pick the same bird. I've seen it many, many times. So these breeders are saying, let me pick them for you. I know what you need. I know my fowl better than you. They're just trying to make a buck and pawn something off on you that they don't want on their yard. Usually is the true scenario there. So just be careful of
that. I hate to say it, but I can almost count on one hand people I consider good breeders who really understand the breed, who understand the fowl. That they're not as many as you would think. Nope. And some of the ones that are supposed to be the really good breeders today, I've been on some of those farms. I've watched the videos and really studied the birds that I could see up close and in the background. The ones they're holding, the ones they're telling that they're selling to people, or the ones they're showing in the camera that this is going to so-and-so. And 99% of the time, they are crap. And it's either they're purposely selling them that way or they don't know either. And you would think the fact that they're holding this bird, saying, I'm mailing this bird to so-and-so, showing it off, to me, that means they think that's a good bird, but they don't really understand the bird. Breeders who've been breeding these birds for 20, 30, 40 years, and they still don't understand the breed. So
That's dangerous. That's dangerous to the breed itself.
So Frank's right. That's why we have the Breeders' Academy. That's why you go on there before you go to buy your birds, study the conformation of body program, study the defects program, and we're adding more colors per soon. I don't know if, I've got books all over the place. Nancy's helping me out. We're starting to expand the standard perfection in the Breeders' Academy. We're adding more varieties and we're improving the ones we have. So she's been working hard on that. She's been doing a lot of research, gathering the information for me, so I can put it together. And you're gonna like it. I have all the illustrations to go with it and everything. So that's something that's in the works too. So study those programs, go through the programs on selection, really get to know the breed, really get to know how to select them. And then when you go on these guys' farm, you're going to go there educated. You're going to go there with some knowledge, and you can let them talk and you can listen to them. But I'm telling, like Frank said, use your own gut, use your own guidance, use the knowledge that you gain from the Breeders' Academy and select your birds. And you don't have to say nothing to him. Just say, you know what? I like this cock over here. You don't have to say why or nothing. Just say, I want him. And then you match him to the right hen. Don't have to be related, because that's what the Founders Program's for, is to create a strain with birds that are cross, unrelated, mongrels. As long as they represent their breed and their variety and they match each other really well, you're going to be able to create a strain from that. Yeah, definitely. I believe that wholeheartedly.
And another thing, Kenny, I want to let them know, when you're first starting out with your seed fowl, making your strain, you don't want to make the top part of your family tree. Okay. You don't want the branches all out on it. When you're first starting, you want it in a straight line. You want to make the base of the tree. Then later on, when you get set up with the program, then that's when you want to branch out and make the top of your tree. But you never want to branch out in the beginnings of it, because to me, that's where a lot of people make some mistake. That by staying in a straight line, you're helping the main key. You're making them all look alike. You're cleaning them up. You're locking in the genes that need to be locked in, and then you go and you branch out. But I see, just like we was talking about, Kenny, with starting out with a trio or starting out with two pairs, they always want to branch it out in the first. But if you follow the Founders Program and walk it through and don't jump the lines, by the time you get up to the inbreeding process, you're going to be lined up really good, to where you're going to, after you do that inbreeding, you're going to see some real nice fowl being bred and coming out. That right there, if you follow the instructions and do it like it's written out, you'll see the improvements as you go. And that's a telltale sign that you're doing everything right.
Yeah. If you look at stage 1, stage 2, we're in stage 3, actually, we're keeping everything very tight and linear. Okay. It's not until stage 5 that we start to broaden out.
Right.
Okay. And then we broaden out even more in stage 7 and 8. Okay. So there is a time when you're going to make the family bigger and broader, but it's when you're seeing more uniformity, more consistency. They're more of a family, more of a foundation, but not when you're in, the genesis phase or the transformation phase. You want to avoid broadening out until you get into the foundation phase. Okay. So,
the best thing for me, Kenny, everybody knows their chickens. When you breed a cock, you could take that cock and put it on a farm of 1,000, okay, and go through and find that cock on your own without a problem. You know your birds. Everybody likes, oh, well, how you know the chickens apart? They all look the same. Well, to a good breeder, they don't all look the same. But by using this, and I have a hard time sometimes, I'll think one bird is another bird, and without looking at the leg band, they're so close that I can't even pick them out. And that's a sign of a good breeder. When you're seeing your birds that all look the same with the same characteristics and they're identical to each other pretty much in every way, the same strengths, the same weaknesses, everything, then you know you're doing what you're supposed to do. I see so many times you see these chicks, you hatch them out, it's supposed to be a good breeder. It's supposed to be a pure family, and you hatch them out, and then you see white chicks, yellow chicks, chipmunks, light chipmunks. I mean, you just see even different colors, black,
Yeah.
it can be a mess. And you see a lot of this on Facebook and a lot of these groups, people taking pictures of chicks. And that tells me a lot, just what you see in the chicks.
Yeah.
They tell on their parents every time.
Yeah.
The chicks will say, no, 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 no. I'm telling on my mom and dad, they'll do it every time.
Offspring will tell you everything about the parents.
Yep.
That's Now, the way we do these videos is we just chat. It's basically a conversation, and yes, we have an outline, but we do kind of go in a different direction and come back, and then go down and then go another direction, come back. So what I'm trying to say is, although these videos are great and they really, we do our best to stay on target as far as the topic that we're, like today is determining your stage 2. I want to encourage you guys to make sure that not only do you watch the video, but you look at the program, the way it's set up, the illustrations that are in there, read through that too. And I would almost encourage you to read through the program first, check out the illustrations, then go watch the video. Because I think and this is my fault because I tend to do it. And I know that's why we said this. If I looked at this outline would normally be a 30-minute tops outline. And we could easily turn this to 2 hours because we have so much fun talking about it. And we bring up other topics that we think we need to explain too. But really look over the program, read it over, look at the illustrations, then watch the video, and then listen to us talk about it. I just wanted to say that. Okay. Because I did have a member say that it just seems clunky the way you guys are doing it. I get it. I totally get that the videos aren't spot on. It's not like a seminar where we're standing in front of a whiteboard and go, you do this, thank you, have a good night. We
It's
just
conversation.
do that. Ooh, it's conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
But don't dismiss the program. Don't dismiss what I wrote. Don't dismiss the way it was laid out and the banners that are in there, because that's actually probably more important. But then you can listen to us and go, oh, okay, I get it. And as you're listening to us, even go down on the page and look at those illustrations as we're talking. Okay. I
don't think they would enjoy it if me and you got a copy and Kenny'd read a paragraph, I'd read a paragraph. We'd read. I don't think you guys would tune in and watch that. That's just my opinion. And when me and Kenny first done this, we was trying to figure out, how we're going to approach this. And Kenny said, well, this is how we'll start out with it. And if it doesn't work, we'll go to other phases of it. But let's just have a conversation. Let's talk about it. We go totally off base sometimes. Yeah. But the base that we're going off of still comes back and is part of the routine that we're talking about, or method, or whatever it may be that we're talking about.
Yeah, because I noticed that I'm watching the outline. And like I've been staring at this one for a little while, but we've been talking about other stuff. So we're going to come back and then they're going, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah. Okay. I remember now. Okay. I understand that. So anyways, I'm coming back, by the way, to the outline. So we were talking a second ago, how backcrossing in many cases, well, let's say people get confused. They look at backcrossing and they call it line breeding. They look at line breeding, they call it backcrossing. They don't understand that they're both different. They're not the same. They have different forms. They have different functions and purposes. For example, line breeding is breeding to a common ancestor, like father. Trying to look at how I got this set up here.
Father, mother, grandfather.
Yeah, that's not right. Okay. So line breeding is father to daughter, father to granddaughter, father to great granddaughter, or mother to son, mother to grandson, mother to great grandson. Okay. That's because you're basically breeding to a common ancestor, to his best offspring, generation after generation, for the purpose of cloning. Now, if you look at all the good breeding books, that's what they say. Inbreeding is for the purpose of cloning. We're trying to get as close to the bird that we're breeding to as possible. You're not exactly like someone asked me the other day,
I
if
was getting to that.
yeah, if I get a bird that's better than their father during the line breeding program, what do I do? If you do, and you're sure he's better, then he takes the place of his father, because you always want to breed the best, okay? But chances are that rarely happens, because what happens is during the line breeding program, you're breeding to a son, and the offspring are getting closer to the father. Okay, then you breed him to his grandsons, and the offspring from that are getting closer to the grandfather. And same thing with great grandfather. They're just getting better. By the time you get to 7/8 or 15/16, the offspring aren't usually like a whole lot better than the common ancestor that you're bringing to, but you're getting closer to him. Okay. Um, so just understand that. Where some of the improvement, where you see that jump in improvement, would be when you do the line crossing, when you're crossing the different lines together. Then you're going to see a huge jump. Then we reestablish the lines. Did I make sense there, Frank?
Yeah, and
People have a misconception of line breeding.
And even with the cloning part, we had a member say, "Well, you're not cloning them,
No.
you're not taking them to a lab and cloning that particular bird." Well, cloning in a sense that you're getting the biggest part of his genetics,
Yeah,
and in his offspring. Not that you're making a total identical clone of him, but cloning in the sense to where you're getting the most of his genetic, diversity.
Yeah.
You're getting the main parts of him that you can.
But if you were to do a DNA test on
That'd
the
be close.
offspring from 7/8 to 15/16 back to that common ancestor that you've been breeding to, you'd be surprised how close they would be.
They'd be very close. But a difference, but be very close.
Yeah. And if you're getting, okay, here's a good example. If you're getting a lot of at 7/8 or 15/16 in your line breeding program, and you're still getting variation, you did something wrong.
Very wrong.
You went into line breeding too early. You didn't clean them up. You didn't do the back cross you should have probably. You probably didn't do enough inbreeding and selection through the inbreeding that you should have. Because through inbreeding, you're not only you're culling out the bad traits, you're fixating and locking in the good traits. Okay. And that's a huge jump. It's like a huge shortcut that you're doing when you do the inbreeding. And when you don't do the inbreeding, you can get by, but it takes you a lot longer to get there. When you do the line breeding, you probably are going to see some variation in the 7/8 and 15/16. Okay. If you do that, then you better just expect that. But if you do the first few stages properly and you're still getting, you shouldn't get variation, genetic variation like that. The closer you get to him, the more that variation disappears. So if you're selecting them properly, that is too. So
yeah, you're right, Kenny. Inbreeding can take years off of making a string.
Yeah.
I mean, literally years in one breeding. So
sometimes
that shows you right there just how important that it is.
And to help you out a little more is if we look at the difference between line breeding and backcrossing. Now, line breeding is associated with inbreeding, whereas backcrossing isn't. Because backcrossing is, like we talked about, breeding the hybrid offspring, because we're not breeding when we're doing backcrossing, we're not breeding a family. We're not breeding cocks and hens that are related to each other or from the same line. Rarely are we doing that. We're usually breeding unrelated parents, which is creating the cross, which is creating a hybrid offspring, which is being bred back to one of the parents. That's backcrossing. If you look it up, that's exactly what they say too. Okay. So whereas line breeding is highly associated with inbreeding, and there are various levels of inbreeding. We look at brother and sister, that's the closest you're going to get. Line breeding would probably be the next. Cousin to aunt, uncle to niece, that can be considered a form of inbreeding, but it's also considered what we call in and inbreeding, which is very rarely when you do an in and inbreeding do you see improvement. you kind of somewhat maintain it, but you're kind of carrying that genetic diversity along with them. They call it those are like maintenance programs. So I would only use in and inbreeding in a spiral mating or a clan mating system where the only improvement is culling. You have to have a certain numbers. You cull the worst ones. You kind of make a little bit improvement, not much. I usually tell people stay away from in and inbreeding if you can possibly do it. You know,
It's it's used a lot, but it's misused even more in an inbreeding is from what I've seen over the years. There's quite a bit of people out there that use it, but they, like Kenny was talking about, a lot of times they're not using it properly the way they should.
okay, so I'm skipping through a lot of stuff we've already talked about. That's good. I'm doing better. Did you notice how much I just skipped through?
Yeah. I was like, where'd he go?
I'm down to multiple backcrossing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, multiple backcrossings are necessary when you're dealing with birds that probably, like you're dealing with a cock that doesn't really represent its breed. The colors aren't really set. He's probably got an off color. The conformation isn't all that great. He's got a lot of bloodlines in him. And then you got a hen that probably the same way. Or let's say you have one that's really off standard, but you have the hen or cock that is closer to standard. Because of all that genetic diversity from one of the birds being put in the offspring, it's going to show up. So you might have to do multiple back crossings to get to the point when you have offspring that you can inbreed, because you don't want to inbreed anything that has a lot of faults, because you're just going to carry on the fault. You're going to carry on the sickness. You're going to carry on the defects. You kind of want offspring that are closer to representing their breed and are better than the parents. And then you say, okay, these look pretty good, because I'm going to combine the genes of those brother and sisters. I'm going to lock in some pretty poor genes if they're not right. So I need to make sure before I go into the inbreeding that the offspring that I got from the back crossing is good. Mm-hmm. So you might have to do multiple back crossings to make that happen.
Yeah, because you want to make sure everything is perfect as you can get on those birds, because later on you're going to be, it's more or less you're magnifying those. You're putting them under a magnifying glass, really. So you got to make sure you want the good to be magnified, not anything bad. Anything you got in there bad is going to go just like with the good.
Yeah, when you're back crossing, those offspring, before you move forward, have to meet your expectations. Okay, they got to be measurably better, noticeably better than the parents. Otherwise, you're going into the next stage in a really bad situation. So
that would be a nightmare. Matter of fact,
yeah,
going in with less offspring than the parents, them under their parents. That's not a good start.
And I see this with people who believe in the program, they understand the program, but they lose patience. Mm-hmm. Okay, they want it that good enough. Sometimes good enough isn't good enough. You gotta try to get them. You gotta say, okay, well, they're better than the parents, but God, they just need a little more. Well, then give them a little more. Okay, do the back crossing one more time. Most of the time, depending on the fowl. Now, this is why it's important that you want to start with the best birds possible, because this is going to help out a lot. Sometimes we just got to start with what we have. And usually if you do the due diligence to get the right birds when you're starting, one back cross is usually enough, and you can go into the inbreeding. If you can't get good birds, all you have is what's in there. I started with pretty bad birds. They weren't that great. Okay. They had a lot of faults. So I know how hard it can be to get good birds and how expensive it can be. And sometimes you just need to do with what you got, because I do believe that you can create a strain from any cock and hen. Where you end up in the end could be totally different than what you expected, but I do believe that you can make it work. So there's times when you're starting with really good fowl, when back crossing is enough, or you're starting with birds with some faults, and maybe you might have to do multiple back crossings before you go into the inbreeding.
That's the reason once again, a broke record. We say get the best seed fowls that you can get. Uh, you know, Kenny says it quite often. He believes you can start a family from any pair of chickens. You can, but how long is it going to take you is the question. So, we want to get the best start that we can get. And that's the better start we get, the easier this program will be for you as well.
The quality of the offspring tells you everything you need to know. It tells you where you're at, where you're going. Okay. So if the quality of the offspring's good, then you can move on to the next stage. If not, then you've got to, and that's the other thing too, Frank, is everybody looks at backcrossing. Okay, do the backcross, and the offspring aren't quite better than the parents, and they say, okay, I've got crap here. Okay, I've got to get rid of these birds and start over. And although I have no problem with you, because you don't want to lose time, of course, getting other birds, but also say there's something in those birds that you saw that you liked.
Right.
So go ahead and breed. You can go ahead and buy more birds or whatever, but go ahead and breed them and go through the program. And I'll bet there's a good chance that the offspring will surprise you. Okay. And then all of a sudden if you just follow the program, before you know it, you're back on track. What I'm trying to say is thinking you're going to get the perfect birds, the birds that are going to produce perfect offspring right off the bat is rarely the case. And if you're impatient and you give up that soon, chances are the new birds you buy are probably going to do the same thing. You're going to have the same poor expectations, and you're going to give up. You don't want to give up. You don't want to give up.
Even with good quality birds that we're getting for seed fowl, there's still a quality there that we have to put forward the effort to ensure that we get better each method as we go through. That the offspring is better than the parents.
Yeah.
We have to work for that. It's just not that, okay, I put them in a pen, they're going to do the rest. No, we have to do our work. We have to do our homework. We have to go through and read each method to where we understand it. Watch the videos until we understand it, that we know for sure 100% of what we're doing. And if you're not sure, then get a hold of me and Kenny. Me and Kenny can help walk you through it. There's nothing wrong. Even though if you think, okay, I've got this, I understand it 100%. There's nothing wrong with calling me and Kenny up just to verify where you're at.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
Oh, darn it. This is a good example, and it blows people away that I started with the birds on top. Now, some people would say, oh, they look great to me. Well, then we got to work on you because these were pretty bad, and I'll admit it. I don't know what I saw in them. I tell people all the time, but at the time I saw something in them and I wanted to make a family of it. If you look at the birds at the bottom, this is what they look like today. I can't wait for Frank to get here so I can show him my birds. This is what they look like today. And I'm telling you, man, this is without adding not one drop of outside blood ever. I never took a chance adding new blood. I followed the program. I saw that the offspring were getting better and better. And I saw that we were improving. And this is like 30 years of work. And you can do without adding outside blood. This was what they look like at, I think it was 10 or 12 years in. And I thought they were pretty good then. Okay. I actually thought this was as good as they were going to get. And I was happy with them. But through, and just because they're in the foundation stage doesn't mean that you can't improve them. They're not going to get better. They are. They're going to, at this time, the improvements are going to be subtle, but you're going to see it generation after generation. And by this time, you're going to know your birds. You're going to understand your birds. You're going to know what to select, and it's going to become easier to you. You're going to see variation. People are going to come on your yard and go, wow, they look all alike. But in your head, no, I see huge variation between the birds. I know every bird on my farm. I know the differences. I know which ones to select. I know which ones are the worst ones, which ones are the best ones. Okay. Because I know my birds. And after, working with them and getting into the foundation phase, you're going to know them too. And you're going to know which ones are better and which ones aren't. And you're going to still see improvement over and over. But what I'm trying to say is I never added outside blood, and they were pretty bad when I started.
Well, Kenny, just without any gene pool you get as far as birds are concerned, usually 9 times out of 10, what you're looking for is in that gene pool. You've just got to breed enough of them to find it. That's the main key starting out. But a lot of times, people's like they breed them, they don't come out the way that they need to be. They scrap them, get some more, do it. And Kenny mentioned it a while ago. A lot of times, if you have that problem with the first set of birds you get, usually going to have it with the second, third, and fourth.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah. So let's move to inbreeding. Now, the times, and we're to remind you what we're talking about, because I see new people coming on, is we're talking about how do you determine what your stage 2 is. And typically it's backcrossing, but there's other times, depending on the quality of fowl, we might either use inbreeding or go directly to line breeding, which we're going to talk about. I don't want you to think that's the good way to go. There's some problems with that too. So let's say you look at the offspring from the seed fowl and they look pretty good. And in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I think I'm going to be able to do inbreeding. So I go ahead and inbreed them. Now, the quality of those birds that are produced from the inbreeding will tell you how much or how good or how bad of an idea that was. And so you're looking for noticeable standouts. Okay. Are you getting what you're looking for? Do they represent their breed? Are they free of defects? Are they healthy and vigorous? Okay. When you do the inbreeding, are the offspring the same way? Or did you see a completely different outcome? Okay. So the only time I would consider inbreeding from the seed fowl is if the seed fowl themselves are not only representative of their breed with color, conformation, and type, health, vigor, good personality, whatever, and they're matched up with the hen that's the same. They don't have to be related, but they have to be the same. So if you got two good birds that represent their breed and match well with each other, the offspring you get from that is going to be predictive. I mean, you're going to see, they're going to show traits. You're not going to see a lot of genetic diversity, a lot of genetic variation because they're sharing the same traits. That's a good thing. Maybe not, they're not related as far as family, but they share so many of the same traits. You're not going to get big surprises in the offspring. And that when you do the inbreeding, you're getting favorable results. Okay. That would be a good time to say, okay, the inbreeding worked right from the seed fowl. I do the second inbreeding as we do in stage 4, and then move into the line breeding from there. So inbreeding can be used as a stage 2 if the quality of the seed fowl are good.
But they have to be good, guys. There's no in-betweens, maybe mats. They have to be extremely, extremely good to just go straight into inbreeding.
Yeah, that's the key, because you're not going to be able to go right into inbreeding if you're dealing with birds that are flawed or second best. Okay. They got to be really good. And they got, okay, hold on a second.
But the main thing is, and you mentioned this a while back, Kenny, we sort of, when we got off track a little bit, but I think I was the one brought it up. But if you're seeing variation after the second inbreeding, you've done something, if they're not alike in every way and you've just got a bunch of different this and different that, different personalities, different cut. I mean, something went awry somehow. So when you get up to this stage here, your birds need to be everything that you can put in them. Everything that you can throw at them, they need to be. They need to be as good as you can get them.
Okay, let's see. Just understand, okay, I want to cover this real quick. The main reason, understand what these different stages are, and if you're going to skip one of these methods and jump to the next method, are you giving up the purpose for that method? Okay. Backcrossing was used to get more from the parents because the offspring still kind of lacked. Offspring, I mean, the parents are showing you what they have. Phenotypically, they're showing you what they have. If the offspring aren't showing it too, then we still want that. That's why we are breeding to them. Then we do our back crossing, try to get more into the offspring as we can. Inbreeding, it's a cleanup. We use it to clean up the line. We cull the undesirable traits. We're going to fixate and lock the desirable genes. We're trying to clean up the existing genetic variants and the genetic diversity that exists within the birds. Even when they look perfect, there's going to be some variation in them that we're going to want to clean up. And inbreeding is one of the best ways to do that. It's a fantastic shortcut, and it's a necessary evil, I think, when creating a strain. Okay. I know some people want to avoid it and they see problems with it and they're scared of it. But I always try to tell people, just try to embrace it the best you can, because it's more important than you'll ever know, especially when creating a strain.
To give them an idea, Kenny, back years ago, 10 years ago, I would talk inbreeding and everybody would just look at me like, just like, what are you thinking? Or have you lost your mind?
Yeah.
They did, even 10 years back, nobody was even talking this. And now that the ones that I have influenced to try it, just to use it, just to try it, that's become members, they can't go back and do it any other way except the way they do it now. They were so impressed with the results. One of them was, I was telling Kenny about this the other day. He was so dead set against inbreeding that it was like a sin.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like religiously a sin. You didn't do it, and talked him into it, got him to do it. And man, I mean, to tell you now, he is totally a different breeder now. His birds look so good. They're uniform. They're correct. They're what they're supposed to be. And the first thing he told me was, I pissed away a lot of good bloodlines over the year just because I was adding blood and not breeding the way that I should. Yeah. So a lot of them get their eyes opened up when they finally use it. And I say to this, if you've got questions about it, if it's a question mark still, just try it. Use it the way that me and Kenny is putting it to you and the way that it's written out in the Founders Program and the website. And I assure you that if you follow those steps, step by step, that you will have a different outcome or opinion at the end of this. I'm telling you, it's an eye opener. It really is.
It's funny you said that he looked at it as a sin, because that's exactly what I was getting from someone recently. Mm-hmm. That it was a moral dilemma, he said.
Yes.
That it goes against everything I believe in my religion and all this stuff. And I think he said he might even use that word sin, and it was like he just couldn't get over it. He just couldn't get past that part. I had to show him how to do it without it. But then you should see his face when I said, brother and sister is the closest inbreeding. But when you're doing line breeding, that's inbreeding too. You're breeding, family members together. And he was like, oh.
Well, I would have to sit down to see the exact percentage. But if you're just breeding, say, first cousins, that's still like 12% of an inbreeding.
Well, think about
that. So, I mean.
Okay, brother and sister, I can see that it's extreme. But line breeding is father to daughter.
Yes.
Father to granddaughter.
Yes.
So if you got a problem with inbreeding, you got a problem with line breeding. So you're going to just cross because you have that moral dilemma and you're just going to cross, then you're not creating a strain, right? So why would you join the Breeders' Academy? Yeah. That kind of thing.
That's a good point, Kenny, because
I hope I'm not insulting anybody, but I'm just telling you the reality.
Yeah, it's how it is. But some of them take it to the point to where it's just like me and Kenny was talking about. It's a sin, but they don't care to do the other inbreeding. So if you're all right with doing line breeding, you should be okay doing inbreeding. I mean, it's virtually, yes, it's different in the way that it works. We look at inbreeding as a method, a tool. Line breeding is we consider a method. Okay. But I don't know, man. It's just,
they must be worried about 5 heads and 20
I
legs.
think that's a lot of it. They think that inbreeding regurgitates deformities and abominations rather than it's just showing you what's already in the gene pool, as
Yeah.
you know, we all know.
Inbreeding doesn't create new genes. It expresses what's already there. Now, if you
Expose it.
see a bird with 4 legs and 4 wings, and they actually produce birds
They
like that.
do.
That's not from inbreeding. That's mutation.
Yep.
You know, and we talk a lot about mutation theory and Hugo DeFries. And when I do the program on the founding fathers of evolution and the founding fathers of selective breeding and how they intertwine, well, we're going to go into these guys. We're going to do kind of a biography and show you what they're all about, what they discovered, how it relates to what we do and everything. And I can't wait to do that. But and you know, when I cover Hugo DeFries, who discovered mutation theory, we're going to go into that. We're going to go into deep into mutation, because I think inbreeding gets attacked for the wrong reasons, I guess you can say.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Just give you an idea. I seen a picture on Facebook. I don't know if it's in a group or just on Facebook, but it had a bird that had an extra leg. All the comments on it was saying brother to sister, brother to sister, brother to sister, brother to sister. And I mean, it was crazy at the people was thinking that it was from heavy inbreeding, that that deformity was. But and you know, you see this on other podcasts, even with I'll go into it again, the Bigfoot stuff, you know, having the extra toe or less a toe. They were saying it was heavy inbreeding on where there wasn't many of them. They was inbreeding, you know. People has that that terminology is totally messed up.
Now, I
Totally
will say this. If you breed a bird with 4 legs with another bird with 4 legs, okay, then you're going to produce a lot of offspring with all kinds of faults and things like that.
Because you're taking advantage of that. You're taking advantage of that.
It
that
becomes a
mutation.
genetic trait at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
But to breed to a brother and sister that doesn't already have that trait in them, it won't express that trait.
Exactly.
No, it has to already be in there. And it has to be either a recessive trait that's hidden in there because it wasn't expressed yet, or it never was in there. And if it expressed itself, it's because it was already there. And all you have to do whenever you want to get a recessive trait to be expressed is to match 2 birds that carry the same recessive trait. So, I mean, Frank was saying earlier that you don't want to breed a bird that can't handle inbreeding. Well, sometimes when you do an inbreeding and it expresses traits you don't like, it's because you combine the genes. You know, you consolidate the genes in such a way because you are talking about brother and sister, but it's not creating new traits. It's creating things that are already there. So if it produces a lot of offspring, a lot of faults, then yeah, you got a problem. You have recessive genes that you didn't know were there. And that's the whole idea of doing the cleanup. Now, if I do my inbreeding and I have a whole bunch of offspring with really weird traits, but I still have my standouts, then I go with the standouts because they don't have it. They're not going to carry it. They're not going to, carry it with them, So I always breed to the standouts, never to all the birds, just because I get, and this is the other thing we talk about too. We're really going into inbreeding when we're going to cover it all by itself in a second, is people use inbreeding in the wrong way where they breed a brother and sister and they look at the offspring and some of them show faults and they think automatically, oh, well, I can't inbreed. Look what they produce, when they don't even look at the ones that were good. And that's the whole idea, is finding those that stood out, breed to those and get rid of all the other crap. That's how it works. It did its job.
If you come out with 50 terrible, awful offsprings and you've got one that's perfect, it done its job.
Go with the perfect one.
Go with the perfect one. As long as you get what you want out of it, it's done its job. The rest are, that's what we cull for. That's the reason for culling.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other part of it, Kenny, is because a lot of times people don't cull like they should. And when they are doing this inbreeding, they just don't want to have to cull the extra birds that don't make up for what it takes. I think a lot of it is just culling.
You don't have to inbreed forever. It's just a tool. Right. It's used for a specific reason to get a specific result, and then you're done with it. If you want to do more inbreeding down the road just to tighten them up, you can. You're going to probably get even better results if you do it after you've gotten well into the foundation phase. Inbreeding is a completely different animal than it was in the beginning of creating the strain with all that genetic diversity you hadn't weed out yet. So
I think if we went, just say we scrapped the whole Breeders Academy, just scrapped it and just put it out there for the world to see, and went on Facebook and put articles out and taught classes and put out there what it's like what we're doing right now. Say we done the live show the way we're doing right now, Kenny. I think we would open it up. There'd be more better birds out there because we would open these people's minds up that's saying, hey, it's, you know, it's abomination. Don't do it, this and that. But if they, I think what it is, it's just a lack of not knowing. They don't understand it. They've never been taught the correct way, how it works, the advantages and disadvantages to it. I think it scares a lot of people. And therefore, when something scares you and you're not sure of it, you either belittle it, put it down, or stay away from it. I think that's where we're at with it.
Birds can handle a lot more inbreeding than mammals. I get that. You don't want to inbreed mammals over and over and over again. You are eventually going to see inbreeding depression. It's just the genetics are completely different. Okay. But birds can handle a lot more, and just understand what the true signs of inbreeding depression are, and mainly chickens. Okay. Someone who breeds goats and things like that, they're going to have to tell me what they consider what inbreeding depression is, because I don't really know that, but I know chickens. And when you have true inbreeding depression, it's when the chicks don't hatch, which could be a lethal gene, but a lot of times they don't hatch, or they come out and they're really lethargic. They just don't have the energy. They just don't look healthy. They just look unthrifty. And then usually if they get past that point, inbreeding depression shows itself in a way that if you compare it to other birds, the growth and development wouldn't be the same. It would be lacking really bad. Okay. And when it comes to birds, it takes a lot of inbreeding to see true inbreeding depression. So you can go a long way. And it's a funny thing too, is inbreeding depression, the things that cause inbreeding depression are the same things that fix it. So when you're seeing true inbreeding depression and you're culling the birds that are expressing that, and you're breeding to the better ones, then it fixes itself. Okay. I lost my train of thought.
And it's a quick fix. It's a very quick fix.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're going to have to depopulate and start over again the way a lot of people think. Yeah, it can be a long road, but it's not the end game that kills everything. Guess what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. God, I forgot my train of thought, because inbreeding. Oh, what was I going to say? Because you're not going to breed to the birds that are showing inbreeding depression. That's not what I was going to say. Oh, shoot. It's on the tip of my tongue. It was so important, too.
I hate when that happens to me.
Yeah, God. I was trying to cover my other point and bring that one back, and it just flew away on me.
Well, man, while you're thinking about that, and Robbie, I skipped over it earlier. I know you asked this a while back, but we was talking to him, you know, the stages that we're in here right now, and he says this stage is exactly where I'm at. But do we have a coaching call in a week? So I'm not sure if I should jump the gun on my questions. So,
well, if we can handle it here, then just so you guys know that we kind of want to do more of these lessons and group coachings, because sometimes you'll do a coaching call just for a few questions, and then to fill in the hour, we come up with a whole bunch of other questions. Okay. So if you guys can take care of your questions in these segments that we're doing now, and we don't have to do a coaching call later, we can save it for another time. That helps me because I'm able to get more work done. I love doing coaching calls overall. I love talking with you guys and everything, but I'm working with a coach on membership sites, and it was one of the things he said was to try to do more of what we're doing now and answer your questions, and that kind of lightens the load, because I can get too many. If you've noticed, some of you guys have set up coaching calls that I wasn't able to do it like the next week. We had to schedule it 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, because I try to only do them on Wednesday so I can get other work done too. So if Robbie wants to ask this question now, instead of on the coaching call, we can do that. Definitely. That would
Yeah,
help.
that
That would help
was
out a lot.
that helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you know, that was the whole reason we started doing this, to where you guys could ask the questions that you wanted to ask.
And Robbie, and any of you guys watching, we're going to do a Q&A after this, and you can even come on and ask your question, or you can ask it in the comments. So we're almost done. I got one more method to do, and then we can go into the Q&A. And if you guys have any questions, we'll address them then. That'd be
Cool.
good. And like I said, you guys can come on the screen or just ask your questions in the chat. But so we're gonna move on to the next stage, but just know that we're gonna be improving the inbreeding course. We're going to be going more in depth on inbreeding. So, but even now, if you want to learn more about inbreeding, go to the course that we have in there right now, read it, check it out. And then after we do the inbreeding video, go read it again, because we're going to improve it. I'm always improving things when I revisit them. Now we're into line breeding. And obviously this is a really important stage or method for stage 5, which is the foundation stage. And you can't create a strain without line breeding. But there are some benefits and there's some detriments to consider, because we are talking about what's your stage 2. And now we're going to be talking about whether or not you should be using line breeding as your stage 2. Now, like we talked about earlier, line breeding as a stage 2 would be more common for breeders of livestock, mammals, pets, things like that. We're not talking about birds here. And I understand you guys can be very concerned about inbreeding, and line breeding could be the way to go for you guys. Although I do really encourage breeders of chickens to use the inbreeding if possible. But I don't want you guys to think, just because I say line breeding can be used as your stage 2, to automatically jump to that, like we talked about before, because you'll know you messed up. That if you start doing your line breeding, and at the end of 7/8 or 15/16, you're still seeing variation, you messed up. You weren't ready to do the line breeding. You should have done the back crossing and the inbreeding to clean them up first.
Main thing is be patient. Very patient, slow and easy, and patient, and it will come out better. You start kind of getting antsy with, and I've been there, Kenny. I've done that before. I've got impatient. I've jumped the gun, and it's only a headache and a mess after the fact. And I so wish that I had, went back and just took it easy. But now the second time around, I guess I learned my lesson from that. I went back through it, done it like it's supposed to, and it come out the way it did. You just gotta put your foot down and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and stick with that, and just don't get in a hurry.
Understand the value of cleaning them up first before you go into the line breeding process. And like we talked about, that's what the inbreeding is for. And don't be inclined to skip that part. Okay, so if we're talking about chickens now, and you think you can go right into the line breeding process, the only way I would see that, and I think I talked about it a little bit before, let's say you go to a breeder. He's a well-known breeder. He's a well-established breeder. He has a really good family, and you're sure of it. The cock and the hen, the seed fowl that you're starting with, are related. They could even be brother and sister already. They come from the same family. You looked over the family, they're all uniform and consistent, no big surprises. Then, you might be okay to go ahead and do the line breeding, but you will only know if you go ahead and breed them by looking at the offspring and seeing the quality of offspring and seeing what they're telling you. But that's the key, Frank, right there.
They can tell you a lot. They actually, the offspring, especially as chicks, can tell you a whole lot before they even feather out, really.
Yeah.
That's a good telltale.
Do you take the chance of going right into the line breeding process just because the breeder says they're a family, just because you happen to be there and they all look pretty good? or you believed what the breeder said and you just took his word for it, that's a choice you're going to have to make. I honestly believe, and I think Frank thinks like I do, is whenever there was a time when people would come up to me and say, okay, this is what I got. This is who I got them from. They look pretty good. And I'd say, oh, wow. Yeah. The first breeding produced really good offspring. They're all uniform. You don't have to do all that other stuff and go into it. But that is just so rare these days that I can actually tell people to go right into the line breeding, that most of the time, some back crossing and definitely inbreeding is necessary. And so I'm to the point now where I rarely ever tell people that do I tell them to do back crossing or do I tell them to do line breeding? There's we'll work through that, but rarely do I ever tell them to go right into line breeding. I usually encourage them all the time now to maybe at least do one back cross and go right in, and then go into the inbreeding after that, and not skip those. Very seldom do I ever tell them otherwise.
I wouldn't chance it myself. Listen, guys, it's it's hard work. Yeah, we do it for fun. It's really not work to us because we do it for a hobby, a passion. But let me tell you something. When you're working on something that you want to be as perfect as you can get, we're never going to give them 100% perfect, but we can still set that goal to perfection and work toward that goal. But Kenny, I don't want to put that much work in something and then skip something that I should have never skipped and just mess everything up just to have to go back and start over and go through that process again. I'd rather go on and do it, be safe, know in my heart that I've done everything that I should and that the end game should come out to my favor rather than just rolling the dice and going after it. Can they do it and get by with it? I'm sure that there is fowl out there that they could, but it's very slim. I used to be a gambler, but I don't think I would take that bet there. I don't think I would.
Think of it like this. I mean, you're getting, let's say you buy a trio or a pair. Okay. Chances are they're not like really young. You only have so much time to make a difference with these things and get going. So a lot of times you're getting birds that are kind of on the old side. There's a lot of peddlers out there that what they do is they slip the spur. Little turn of the spur, pop that thing off, looks like a stag spur. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's things they can do to make some birds look younger than they are. And I hear all the time, people will get birds from someone, and what do they say, Frank? My hen's not laying eggs. And chances are it's an old hen, and they can hide their age pretty good. I've got some hens out there that, they're probably 9 years old. And some of them look like, easily 18-month-old hens.
I have some same way.
Yeah.
Same way.
So, yeah. And if they think they can pass that off on you, they might. So you never know the age. And if you're wrong about what you're doing and you jump the gun, you just lost some time. Okay. And you've lost some options. But if you just go ahead, and it never hurts you to start right from the beginning of the Founders Program, treat them as Adam and Eve, do your back cross ones, maybe go into the inbreeding before you do the back crossing, or do the back crossing next. Go put them through that cleanup process. Even established strain, doing the process properly and then going into the foundation, even from an established strain, you're going to clean them up even more, and they're going to be better than they were. Okay. Yeah. So I always suggest that you start, most of the time, I'm going to suggest that you start right from the beginning.
Yep. I would. Most definitely. Time is crucial. Kenny said it in a nutshell. A lot of times you get birds, they're not spring chicken. So you're starting out 2, 3, 4-year-old birds anyway. So I would start and get as much as I could get out of them in the best way that I could get out of them. I wouldn't skip anything. I wouldn't take anything for granted, especially taking anybody's word for it. I would start from the first and walk all the way through. And that way, they've been set as a real whole family, not a half family or a mediocre family. They've been set as a true family. That to me would be worth the feeling of knowing 100% they were a true family rather than rolling the dice and hoping that they were, Kenny.
Jumping stages is a risk. Starting from the beginning, no matter how good the fowl are, it can't hurt you. can't hurt you at all. It'll actually
Only
help.
help you.
It'll only
Right.
help you. Okay.
Yep.
So what we've been talking about for some of you, I see people still popping on, is determining your stage two. Stage two, as it is right now, is the back cross, but sometimes it doesn't have to be. There are other options like back crossing, inbreeding, and line breeding. I just want you to know the differences. I want you to know the consequences. I want you to know, uh, what's best for what purpose to get to certain result. I'm hoping that we helped you guys with that. I'm hoping that we helped you decide what's best for you because everybody's different in this game. Everybody's strain is in a different place than the other guys. Okay. We're all just doing the best we can, getting the best fowl we can possibly get and trying to create strains from it. Nobody's in the exact same place. Nobody's starting with the same fowl. So know that there's, this is one of the variables of the founders program that you can make a choice. And I just want you to make the right choice. I want you to make sure that you're going through this right because it could help you or it could hurt you,
Yeah. And too, Kenny, we try to make it as easy on them as it can be. And I think if they take what we offer in the Breeders' Academy, the coaching calls, along with the masterclass videos, I think if they take all those and they do them to where they know that they can do it, and they go through and they follow everything to the way that we put it out there, the information out there, I think they're going to see some good results. I really do.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, contact Frank or me and we'll help you get through it. I say it all the time. I never want you guys to feel lost, frustrated, or confused. When you guys are and we get together, you're helping me because you're showing me where the snags are. You're showing me where we're in places, on the website that need to be improved. If you're having issues with either the website or your breeding, then
Somebody
other
else.
people are too. So you're helping me. Don't think you're not. And to me, there's never a dumb question because you know I I have what we call a lot of times it's called the um I see Steve saying senior moment. I feel like I'm having that right now. What do they call it? Where I, oh my god, it just left me. Maybe I need more coffee.
You've had a long day, Kitty.
Yeah, it's been a crazy day actually. I almost
Yeah.
didn't think I was going to make it today. Um I can't remember the name of it. Where I think I know it in such a way that as I'm explaining it to you, I'm leaving things out because I think you guys are understanding what I'm saying. Okay. The curse of knowledge. That's what it is. So I
Yeah.
know the subject so well that, and I always feel that everybody's on the same level that I am or understand exactly what I'm saying, that my mind wants to go to the simpler explanation, which tends to leave some things out, which loses some people.
I'm
And
terrible for that.
yeah, and that's why Nancy's really good for the shows because she sees that. She sees when I'm skipping over things or maybe things aren't as clear as they should be. And she has questions because she knows that if she's got this question, they have it, or she'll notice that they may have the question, then she'll ask it, which helps make it more clear. So I loved it when we were doing the podcast in the early days. It was me and Nancy, and she really spurred that on. Everybody loved her for it. And I love it when she's part of the threesome that we got going here, where Frank and we do have that curse of knowledge because me and Frank, and we do it all the time. We talk back and forth. We know with little words, I know what Frank means and he knows what I mean. And we never have to go into complete detail because we're always on the same page. And then we have
Right.
Nancy going, hey, wait a minute. What about this? Okay. So that's why there's times when Nancy comes home and she's just beat from work. Okay. Cause she works hard. She's one of the best workers you ever seen. Her customers love her. Okay. Because she works hard for them and gives them their all. And then she comes home with little energy and she's like, oh man, I'm tired. And I beg her to come with us to do this show because I feel like I need her because she's speaking for you guys. She's asking the questions. Maybe some of you guys are didn't think of, or maybe you're afraid to ask. And I get that too, where some members will, I was afraid to ask this, and I thought there would be a dumb question, and there's never a dumb question. You got a question, please ask it, okay? Because it helps me too.
Question's a question, regardless of the content or the knowledge of it. It's if you have a question, and you said it, Kenny, a lot of times if somebody's got a question, there's other members that's got the same exact question. So that's the reason we want to start doing these, because one person's question can be a question for many, many people.
Yeah. So you guys are helping me out. Don't think you're not. Don't think you're burdening me. Don't think your questions are dumb. And that's a good segue into the Q&A, which we can do. So if you guys have any questions, now let me show you this. So I'm on the website where this is being played. Oh, I'm trying to move the wrong thing. If you want to, I don't know where you're at right now, but if you just want to stay in the chat and ask questions, click this button. If you want to come on the show and ask your question with us, come on and have a chat. Click this button. Can you see that? You can't see that, can you?
Not that one.
Oh, you can't see my cursor.
Nope.
That's weird. Okay. Top one for chat. Bottom one for coming on the show.
That's
We'd love
odd.
to have you, and we'll talk. Okay, so get your questions in. Frank, do we have any questions already?
Robbie, hey Robbie, if you wanted to come on, now's a good time, bud. Come on, and we'll put you in on the show. Robbie, I think he was wanting. He said it'd be easier to just come on screen to ask the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Until we get a question, till someone comes on or Frank pulls up a question, let me show you this real quick, because we were talking about it, but I didn't. Where am I at here? You can go ahead and bring them on.
Okay.
Just hold a second. Let me show this real quick. Where am I at here? Okay, here we go. Got it. Okay, so we were talking about this earlier. All the stages, all the phases, all the segments are in their separate banners. Okay. That's the roadmap. All the stages are in red. I hope I'm not going too fast for you guys. I make Nancy dizzy when I do this. So we've got video, and then it goes down. But we got videos for stage 1. This is part of stage 2. So there's going to probably be 2 videos for stage 2, which determining your stage 2 and in stage 2, which would be backcrossing. And that'll have that video in there pretty soon, and then we'll work our way through. So if there's not a video, there will be a video, but now it's cleaner. One more thing I want to show you guys. Let me get to the top. Close your eyes. Make you guys dizzy. So if we go to the Mac. Now, right now, I've got it set up like this, but pretty soon you'll see a video here with a description, and then you'll see a link that takes you to the show notes. So it's going to be a little bit different on the master's class video here pretty soon. And that should be done pretty soon.
Okay.
Hey, Robbie, what's up? Can you hear me?
Just barely. It's almost inaudible. You sound like a mosquito through the other on StreamYard. I don't know why. I went from YouTube to StreamYard,
and you could you hear us before?
I could hear you fine on YouTube.
We lost
him. It might be his reception or his
I think that's what it is. It cut him off, so it's probably his reception, I'd say. Here we go. We got him.
Gonna try it again.
Yeah, here.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, I don't know.
It's bad connection. Yeah, probably a bad connection.
All right. So all right, now I sent you pictures of my fowl, where I have a black-breasted red cock and a wheaten hen, and I bred them, and I got some pretty interesting results in the offspring, where the stag shows that what you would expect of, well, I think what you would expect of, where you talk about how the wheaten bred can come black at first, and then in maturity they turn red.
Oh yeah, you were talking to me about that. That's right. Because let me show you, Frank.
Oh, you've already got pictures of them.
I should. I remember him sending them to me. I don't see him here though. Let me see. What's this? Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. Check this out.
Oh yeah.
Now, this is. He says. Oh, tell me about him, Robbie.
Okay. So while the stag represents that, all of the pullets, and there's a brother to the stag that showed a lot of white in the tail and the wings, like the seed cock. And that's something I wanted to breed away from. So to me, the stag at first had potential, but then I realized that, well, he's black and he's staying black for a long time. And I had asked you about that, and I didn't realize like it was a entirely different breed of black-breasted reds.
Okay. Well, I remember us talking about that, and I think we were talking about something different, because when I'm looking at this cock here, he's not a black-breasted red. He's a black bird, maybe even a furnace. He's a crow-wing bird. So he's not even a duck-wing. He's not a black-breasted red. So this is completely different than what we were talking about. Frank, this is why pictures are so good.
Yeah.
Because what we were telling him before was we were so wrong. We were talking about a different bird.
I had it that it was, more like the hen, rather than him being a black. Because
mine would throw the partridge, but mine would also throw the wheaten bred, where the females were wheaten and the cocks still had the duck wing, but the body was dark. It's like the red didn't come through for a while, but most of the body was dark, where it wasn't partridge. That was the other thing too, that it didn't show the partridge color at all. As baby chicks, they were buff. They come in really dark, but still be duckwing. And then they would slowly become black-breasted reds, but they still weren't partridge. And then the hens were wheaten. So what we were talking about was completely different than what Robbie's dealing with. Robbie, that looks like a crow-wing bird. That actually looks like a furnace.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with what a furnace is,
well,
but
you can see the red. You can see that reddish color on the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not real deep. He should have it better, but he looks like more of a furnace. He's not duckwing. He's actually a crow-wing bird. There's no way he's related to that hen, right?
He's actually the brother to that pullet. They're both 6 months old in a week.
So brother and sister.
Yeah. Those are the two now they're from a test cross. In fact, they're soon to be born brother and sister should start hatching in 2 days.
Okay. Well, you got to figure out what direction you want to go.
Yeah,
because
that's getting ready to say.
Because that's not the proper hen for that cock.
Not for him, but if you look at the father, that's what I want to backcross her to.
Do I have that picture?
You do. It was also sent in that email.
Yeah, I was wanting to see the father. Yeah. So wow, man, you got that out of those two.
Yeah, that pair made the pair from the other picture.
Wow.
No.
And they're about to hatch off again.
You sure something else didn't get in there?
I am absolutely positive. Those were the only 2 fowl on my yard for months before that clutch hatched that the stag and the pullet are in.
Wow.
And it was only after they were like 8 weeks old that I brought in my foster hens.
I would have never guessed that.
No,
I would have never guessed that.
You can't produce a dominant from 2 recessives like that. I'm not
That's
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, that's not right.
But you can see some red in the hackle underneath, and you can see some of the brown, like what makes the pattern in the crow wing. You can see that, but it's hidden behind the black.
So we need to see a better picture then.
Yeah, the wing better. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Robbie. It's covered up on the wing.
It looks crow wing to me from here.
He does look crow wing from the picture. He does, but it could be just angle we're looking at it.
Yeah. And you're saying there's red undercolor there under the
There is red undercolor, mostly in the hackle. There's a slight hint to it developing in the saddle. It's like to me, it looks like it's gradually turning red like it's supposed to. But with it starting off black, and then if it does turn into the right color over time, I still don't want to breed to him and perpetuate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, well, you can breed that pullet to him. My only problem is I am not crazy about her type. And she's a clay bred hen, which is going to be tough to reproduce. But that's okay. I mean, so you want to, are you trying to perpetuate this cock? Are you trying to breed more towards this cock here?
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to, where are you at in the program, by the way?
Okay, so those are the seed fowl on screen.
So you want to back cross?
I'm thinking I want to back cross if the stags because those two from the first picture with the black stag and those were a test cross from when they were younger than being fully sexually mature. The ones about to hatch now are at the appropriate age. So that was a test cross I was holding on to for backups. I don't intend to actually breed those. I want to raise these young, and if I see better than that pullet, breed one of those pullets. But that's the best pullet out of 6.
Okay. Okay, well, show me those when you go to do it, and we'll pick the best pullet to breed back to him. Now, I don't know if you're trying to breed for it or if you're trying to clean it up, but you know, I think you eventually want to try to clean up the white as much as possible, because you know what's funny, Frank, is the white in a Wheaton light red bird to me looks better, and it's easier to maintain for some reason. I don't know why, but when you try to do it with a dark red like this one, it hardly ever works out.
You're right. You're right. It does, because that's mainly, if you've noticed on
muddier.
The last strain that I created, the Kentucky Roundheads, the dark side, you'll notice they don't have white in their tail and their wings nowhere on them. I made sure of that on the dark ones. They had no white, because the first time I done that with the dark reds, it went crazy. Well, just to put it in terms for you, my wife nicknamed one of them Christmas. He looked like a Christmas ornament. He had so much white in him. His wings were white. His tail was white under the hackles and in the neck. It went crazy.
And I think you can do that if you want to by getting rid of the white, because like his daughter there, she's not showing any white. I don't see any white in her.
No.
That's good.
There was a little when she was, I guess about 3-4 weeks old.
Yeah, but
when they were starting to get that grown plumage.
Yeah,
but it's all disappeared now. It's not even hidden under the wings like her father's.
Yeah, you can't judge the pullet plumage with the adult plumage. Yeah, that's seen. I don't know if that's like evolution, where they're like survival in the wild and camouflage, what do they call it, cryptic coloration type thing, where the birds kind of blend in better. You'll see that in young birds where they have multicolors, where they I don't know if that's Mother Nature or not, but a lot of times those feathers will molt out and they'll come in with a completely different plumage. So I always tell people, don't judge the young stags and pullets by color until they have their first molt.
Mine will actually be spangled all the way down to brown breast. And as soon as they get their adult feathers in, all that disappears. They go to solid colors, like the way they should. But before that, they look like Kenny was talking about there. They look like something jungle fowl or something, the way they're camouflaged up.
Yeah, Derek's saying I was going to breed to that color. I breed to the hen side with the leg color, etc. Yeah,
etc.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah. Well, I like you said, I do plan on trying to get rid of the white. The cock, the father to those, had a brother with none at all, but all of his brothers did show it. So, but that one died, and I've got to move forward with what I got.
Do you still have this stag here?
I do. Yeah, he's right outside. His name's Lucky.
Now, how old is he again right here in this picture?
Very young.
This was last week, so Next week he'll be 6 months, so five and a half months old.
If you
I was
keep
going
him,
to buy Spurs.
if you keep him after this coming molt, if you can send me pictures, I'd love to see what he looks like. I want to see the
I would
comparison.
too.
Yeah, I would
I
like
would
to see what he
too.
looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you keep them, if you don't want to, and you don't want to save the money, I'm just curious. If you have them after the next molt, I'd love to see pictures of them.
I've got an
Well, yeah.
idea what he'll turn into, but I
What
would
do you
still
think,
like to
Frank?
see.
What do you think?
I think, well, there used to be some blood that I had. Actually, I told you it come from out your way back when I was a kid, and they were black, and they would just have the red streaks all over them in the hackles, the neck, and the back. But they resembled, but they'd had a little bit more red than he had. They were black, considered blacks, but they'd have that. I just don't want to say what their names were.
Yeah, because he looks like he's from a black family, and
Yeah.
to get that out of what he just showed us, oh, I don't.
There's definitely black there. There's definitely black there.
Yeah, but you don't get black recessive. You're not going to get the black recessive coming out of the reds like that.
But maybe it's the picture. It could be the.
Yeah.
Is he that black in real life, or is it just a picture?
You have to get now. I didn't send the picture, but I have a picture from a few weeks ago where that red was just starting to show in his hackle. Okay. But it's like it's so underneath. Overall, if you look at him, like even holding him in your hands, like he's a black bird.
Wow, that is I'm blown away on that. I really am. That's a first for me.
Yeah, I want to see when he grows. I don't want to place judgment yet until I see him after a first molt, because everything I'm seeing here goes against everything I know.
That's what I was thinking. Like everything I've learned so far, and I'm still very new to this, but I've been in the academy over a year now, I think, and
kind of threw you for a loop too.
Yeah, yeah, it's
different,
and he's got a brother just like him, but with more white.
Wow. How many did you get out of the clutch?
I had. Let's see. I ended up with 6 pullets and 2 stags, but one of the pullets died very early on, so I had 5, and I got rid of all the ones that at I think 12 weeks weren't showing good enough confirmation at that point. I picked the best ones and the ones showing the least white, because that's one of my main priorities before I get to inbreeding. Okay.
Now, was there variation in the pullets, or was they pretty much like the one that you were showing there?
They were all pretty uniform, except varying amounts of white showing.
Right.
So they all came like a very gorgeous partridge, but a lot of them had, to different degrees, more or less white, where she was not showing any, except a tiny little speck in her wing, and then it disappeared.
Yeah, that's that stag though. That's just, he's different. I'll say that for him. He's different.
Yeah,
I would love to see him. I would love to see him after he cocks out, after he goes through that first molt.
That's so different than I was picturing when he called us during the show. I think it was.
Me too. It kind of threw me off when he said he was getting the black coming out, and I thought he just meant in the breast, the blackness in the breast, but I had no idea it was a black bird.
Well, you have, like mine, had different types of red. They had the partridge red, and they had what we call the wheaten red, and the cocks. I mean, the females were wheaten, and the cocks were very, very dark. They started out as buff, then they were really dark, but they were duckwing. Okay. And then you had the partridge side, and those hens were partridge colored with you could see the chicks, even the stags. They started out with that partridge color, and then they turned into the black-breasted red that but they started out partridge. So there was 2 different. I got rid of the wheaten type. I got rid of those other ones. And now all I get is partridge, because I didn't like them, To me, that was, again, I'm a big uniformity guy. I don't want variation like that. and I started really making a lot of progress once I got rid of those. So
I like the look of them overall, though. I just like the color of
Mhm.
the pullets that you've chosen. I just like them much better, especially the checkering on the chest with the gold vein in the feather. I love that. I love that.
yeah. So
Yeah, I'm glad you come on and showed us a picture of that, because I'm like Kenny. I had something totally different pictured in my head, man. I sure did.
yeah. So was this
Totally.
what you were going to ask me on the coaching call?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much it. Because I was
Okay.
baffled by the color. I did not
I'm baffled
understand what
too.
was
You
going
got
on.
me confused.
Now we have to consider both parents are highly mongrelized.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the genetics. You're showing us something that's dominant, basically, that came out of recessives, and that doesn't happen really. So I'm a little confused. I really do need to see. I mean, if you have them, I don't want you raising them just to raise them for me, but I'd love to see pictures of him when he molts out, brings in a new set of plumage, because
I would too.
he could be totally different. Than that might help explain something, I guess. But what I'm seeing here is very confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I would
taking
have
your word
never.
for it, but
I'd have never guessed that in a million years. I mean, if you'd have looked at him and showed me pictures of the offspring, he would have been the last I'd picked. He would
yeah,
have been the last one I picked to be an offspring from him, because I mean, his color is wow. I mean, it's different, but maybe it's just the way the picture's hitting him. But you said that's pretty much the color of him, though, in real
Yeah.
life.
That's it. His brother's the same way, except like I said, there's more white in the tail, or there is white in the tail, I should say. Um, but yeah, those two were the only two stags that hatched from the test clutch. Now, what we're about to see if she can give off another variety of stag in a few weeks, because they're about to hatch this week. But
okay. Tell me this. What did the chicks look like when they hatched out?
every single one of them was the same. They were like exact
Chipmunk.
copies, like cut and paste
What'd they look like?
chipmunk.
Chipmunk, and he was a chipmunk chick.
He was chipmunk, and then the minute you started seeing the partridge showing up on the pullets, I guess when they were getting close to quail size, when that change happened, the stags turned black.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can actually zoom in there. I think you can see some of the red showing in the hackle.
I think I might see a little bit.
Yeah. There's not
But it's
much, but you
barely
can see a
there.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it's like underneath.
Huh.
That's crazy, man.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad you come on and we got to pull his picture up, because
Yeah, if I didn't know, I know Robbie, and I've talked to him many times. If I didn't know him better, I would think he's pulling my leg.
I guarantee you.
But that's crazy, man. That
Mhm.
really is. Now you can see the red in his back and just a little bit in his neck.
He looks
Just
like
a
a
tad bit.
furnace.
Now,
But like I
furnace,
said,
is that what they call brassy backs? Is that what that actually is?
You know what? You know what, Robbie, you're right. I don't mean furnace. I mean brassy back. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
he looks more like a brassy back. What he
Yeah, I
looks
was
like.
saying furnace. I'm sorry, it wasn't furnace. Furnace is the red on the wing bow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, he
Wow.
looks like a brassy back. Actually, I got it wrong. Hold on, let me look at some.
That but now as far as white, when he motes out, he could have it all over him once he motes out into his adult feathers. That's not to say that he will or won't, but there's a possibility to where they've got so much in, he could still have white on him once he motes out, like white streamers or white in the tail, the neck, the wings.
That's what happened to his daddy.
When he moted out.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Where I've got birds with a lot of white in the tail, it will do that. I've got some that they'll just have a normal colored wing, the way it's supposed to be, a duck wing. But when they mold out the third or fourth year, those primary wing feathers will turn snow white.
Yeah.
But it's it's a latent trigger that they do when they get older. It's not, they don't have it up. It's like 3 or 4 years old. They don't have it, but as soon as they get up to that age, boom, it comes out. Throws that trigger.
Yeah. That's why I want to make sure that, whatever I'm breeding from here on out, like I'm waiting the full 2 years and seeing like what they actually turn out to be. And I'll be holding on to him that long just because I've kind of gotten attached to him. But once I run out of pins, like if I don't pick him, he's gone somewhere.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you've got a bird that's way better than that one, you've got no other choice, to make room for your better bird. That's the way I do my culling every year. When I do a pen, as I'm putting them up, if the stag that I'm holding in my hand, I've got something better, well, he gets the cull market. That one goes into the pen. If he's not as good as the one I've got in the pen, I go on and I cull him. So that's how I make determination for my culling each year, is pen space pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, the wild type is in there in a brassy back. So
yeah, he's more close to that. I agree, Kenny. He's more close to the brassy back than he is pretty much anything. But I would have never thought that. I really wouldn't. But that brassy back, I've seen some that color. I've seen some weird makeups of that within the grays and just boom, it just pop up from nowhere.
Now, is that brassy back an off color?
Well, it dilutes the red duckwing, is what it says here. I just don't know if you're going to get duckwing out of it from what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna have to send you a picture of his wing spread out where you can see where it's starting to show that duckwing pattern. I don't know if it'll like fully come out or if that's like a leakage. I don't.
Yeah, well, I'm going to work on that because we're working on the standard and we're adding the genetics to it also. So I'll get to know more about what creates a brassy back and what you can get out of it pretty soon here.
Yeah,
it's not a very, some colors I don't dig deep enough into because they're just rare. They're just they're not. There's not enough around to make a difference. So, and I don't usually waste my time with off colors like that because, see, what I think I do know about brassy backs is they're hard to reproduce. So, and I'm a big guy only, going after colors that you can reproduce. And brassy back's a hard one to do that with. I know that.
Well, you see that a lot too, Kenny, and well, I'm not playing a name game. I'm just telling you what they call them. But with the on the brassy backs itself, they've got what they call the bumblefoot, and you'll have 15 grays.
Brassy backs is the name game. That's a colored genetic.
No, I meant with the bumblefoot. Yeah, I was talking about name game bumblefoot gray.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
But you'll have 15 of those. That's just, your normal regular grays. And then all of a sudden, pow, want to back up and be as black as this one, out of the bunch.
Hold on.
Brassy back. So it can be tricky, but I would have never guessed that out of your Seed Fowl. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, my intention is to find a way to breed against that. I don't.
Oh, I think that's gonna be easier than you think by looking at what I'm looking at here. Because you can't to even keep a brassy back family going, it would take double mating from what I'm reading here, and so that just shows me they can't reproduce themselves very well.
So, do you think I could take that brother and sister, and that will go away in time? Or am I better off backcrossing?
Yeah, because you're talking about the recessive hen there. That'll definitely work against it. So
you culling it out and breeding away from it. Yeah. And probably not too long, wouldn't you think, Kenny?
No, it wouldn't take long at all.
Wouldn't take long at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you'd be all right as far as that, but that's
yeah, actually, oh shoot, maybe you might have some difficulty because the black there is recessive.
Oh,
it's starting to make sense now.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not breeding him.
Yeah, that black would be tough to get rid of. Actually, it's a recessive black.
Okay, so I've got to back cross one of them pullets to their father,
Yeah,
like I
just breed
thought.
away from him, and you'll be fine. Brassy back alone is hard to even maintain. Like I said, you'd have to do double mating to keep it going. But it does. It's weird, Frank. It has recessive. It has a wild type. It also has a recessive black.
The Brassies does?
Yeah,
That's the first I've heard of a recessive black.
they're rare. I mean, you don't see them very often.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what else is recessive black. Let me see.
Well, that fact right there, you're just going, if you see a sign of black, you're just going to have to jump away from it.
Yep. I don't see anything else showing, even in a crowing family or whatever. I don't see anything else that says recessive black. Because black is the highest on the order of dominance when it comes to color, you know. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, if you're not sure if a hen's cleaned out, sure enough, it's not like you're going to get one mixed up, you know, just
That's
going
the
on.
only one that shows recessive black. That is so funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I
did not know that they were recessive.
Let me check one more thing.
I wish I had them books you have.
That explains a lot, though.
Oh, here we go. Let's see.
That explains a lot. I tell you, you don't want to get into that game. I'm telling you, he got me started, and I've spent a small fortune here in the last little bit just buying books. It's addicting. It's addictive. I'm telling you, it really is. But you know, you get a great amount of knowledge out of it. I didn't think a lot of those books, you know, where I do game fowl, I didn't think a lot of those books would help me back years ago. But I was stupid for even thinking that. I mean, they've helped me so much.
You know what the nice thing about American games, old English games, those kind of things, is the colors actually really simple. They're so much easier than domestic chickens.
Oh gosh, by far.
And they're easier to understand. They're easier to reproduce. They're easier to fix. You know, these are all. And you know sooner whether you're dealing with a color that can be improved or whether it needs to just be eliminated. But you're always good. You can always go back to the wild type and you're good to go. You know what I mean? And most of our fowl are black-breasted reds, which is the easiest one of them all. You know, most of the off colors, there's not very many of them really, you know, so. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else that says recessive black. That's funny.
That explains a lot, though, in what I was talking about with the bumblefoots earlier, though.
But
that makes a lot of sense now.
We're adding to the standard. Nancy's working on getting me all the information for that. We're going to do the genetic factors for each one of them, and I'm going to spell it out. So I'll decrypt the codes. Okay. If it's got E plus and E plus and S plus and you know, I'm going to take those codes apart and I'm going to show you exactly what's in them and which is dominant, which is recessive, and which is, you know. So
I told Kenny I was going to start calling it the algebra of chickens, the color codes.
I tell you, I don't even like digging into if I can't simplify the genetics and I can't find a way to use it, then I don't want to know it. I don't want
That's
to
me.
know it. Okay.
That's me.
I want to know if it's going to hold me back or if I can improve it, or how do I eliminate it? Yeah. I want to know all those things. If it's like, if you break down, there's a website out there, I forgot the name of it, but they break down all the genetics, all the genetic factors which make up the color of plumage that you're seeing. And they include things that will never be expressed. You know what I mean? And if you change one of them, it changes the complete color. And I'm thinking, that's not how you breed.
Oh, you're talking about the Kip and Jungle chicken calculator.
That gets people more in trouble than any other website I know. And I've talked to a number of people about that and what they're showing. And I say, okay, show me in breeding terms how I can either fix them or improve them or whatever. Oh, no, this just shows you what's in them. I go, we're talking about black-breasted red.
It's useless.
And it's showing me the genetics for modeling, blue, and there's a bunch of other stuff. And I go, those things will never be expressed in my black-breasted reds. Okay, so why is it even in there? And I almost shut them up right there. They almost completely.
Some of those are god awful. To what you see what's in them, and it's nothing you're going to be able to use ever.
People will memorize the codes for every breed and say it's this, this, and this. I go, okay,
that's useless.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, that's all it's used for.
Yeah,
just remembering what it is to make you look smart, I guess. But here I have it in my hand, but it's useless. I can't do anything with it.
Right.
So I'm like Kenny. See, that's the reason I have such a hard time with my online classes. The stuff that will help me become a better breeder, a better understanding of how the chickens work. I'm all for it, and I get good grades on it. But when I come to the philosophical part of it, I was telling Kenny, I have a hard time focusing and learning it because I'm not interested in it. So it's hard. It's really hard.
So Steve is asking me, what's the best way to send me pictures?
His email address.
Right here, breedersacademy@gmail.com.
Yep.
Send them there. Let me know what I need to know. Write down what I need to know about it. And if I can't answer it in a paragraph or two, we'll do a coaching call.
Yeah. But Robbie, I'm so glad you sent us that picture. That explains a lot.
That changes everything.
Yeah.
That's an odd one.
Man, I would have never guessed that. I had nowhere close to that picture in my head, man. I really didn't. Nowhere even.
I didn't think I was going to see that.
I thought he was talking about something else completely.
I did too. I had no idea. No idea.
Derek's laughing at us.
Now, there is something from earlier in the video when you were talking about doing multiple back crossings, and I'm not there yet. I'm not asking if I should. I'm just wondering, to what generation would that second back cross go?
Well, it'd go back to the original, the seed. Let's say it's the hen you're breeding back to. You'd breed the offspring. It's like a reverse line breeding, but it's not really line breeding. But it would just, every offspring would go back to her. If has what you're looking for, but the offspring aren't expressing it, then we need to keep going back to her until we get what we need. The offspring really do need to be better than the parents before we move into the next generation. I mean, the next stage.
That's a have to.
Yeah. Because if you're moving forward with offspring that are not better than the parents, you're basically going in the wrong direction. Okay. Yeah. And sometimes it takes a couple generations. Most of the time it's just one, but occasionally it's more than that, Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big one. It doesn't have to be a huge improvement over the mother or the mother or the father. Just as long as it's at a improvement. Improvement.
And if she dies before that, or she's not there, then you do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And move forward the best you can. Yeah. So,
but you're doing your job. As long as the offspring are better than the parents just a little bit, you're doing your job. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You can go on each time, as long as that part of it is right. They're better. You can go right on to the next one.
The rest of you get your questions in, or we're going to wrap it up soon. Give it a few more minutes. I have no problem answering questions for a little while, but Frank, are you okay to stick around a little longer? Or
yeah, I'm good at if they've got some questions, we can stick with it a little while longer, as long as they've got those.
Yeah. So, I appreciate that, Robbie. That made the difference.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Now I can exit out of here if I need be and go back to the other video.
Yeah.
All right. You can exit right out of everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate
Robbie.
it.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye. Okay.
I'm so glad he done that, Kenny. that I had something I had a totally different picture in my head of what that stag was looking like, what he was talking about.
Oh,
So,
I thought I knew exactly what he was talking about because I was dealing with it out there.
but that just shows, like you said a while ago, that just shows how important pictures can be for us to, to get them from the members to show. Because we could be telling them something totally different and going in a different way and misunderstand it. But technology that we have now has been really great, to be able to help them.
That's why I'm so hesitant to answer some questions with limited information.
It's hard to do without not seeing the foul.
Especially what we're dealing with. The American games that we're dealing with have so many bloodlines in them. What they're explaining to me could be anything, without actually seeing pictures. So, and it's one of the reasons why we don't edit and use the coaching calls for the shows anymore. Because when we do coaching calls, most of the time we're looking at their birds and comparing the birds and talking about their birds. Well, on a podcast, you can't see that. So there's no reason to do it. Okay. And then on top of that, we're talking so much about the Founders Program these days that by the time I cut all that out, there isn't much left of the episode to actually use it. So some of you that have been doing coaching calls lately, you'll notice I'm not recording them and I'm not using them for shows anymore because that's just the way things are going. It's the way we're doing the coaching calls and the fact that we're talking about the Founders Program. It just doesn't work anymore. But I think and it's a shame because, well, it's not a shame. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. The coaching calls are more relaxed than they used to be. You always had that feeling you were still doing the show. Well, it's more casual now than it ever used to be.
Well, and a lot of them you've spoke to, you've had acquaintance with them already, and it's like you get to know them. Yeah. So, you get comfortable with them. I've got one that I've probably done in the past 2 years. I've probably done 10, 12 coaching calls with him, so it's when I do a coaching call with him, it's like me and you sitting, chatting, talking, Yeah. A lot of times me and him finish up the coaching call and we'll sit there and talk about, the weather, politics, whatever it be. We'll spend another 30 minutes talking about that,
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll wrap it up. And I hope that what we talked about helped because I think this is, an important subject. It's I look at it as part of stage 2 because we're helping you determine which one to use for stage 2. But we do consider stage 2 to be backcrossing. But just know there's other options. I just want to make sure if you use any of those options, you're using it for the right reasons. And okay. Robbie's saying I can go ahead and cancel the coaching call. We answered all of his questions. So, I mean, this helps, with the coaching calls too. Yeah. I mean, if we can answer a lot of the questions people would normally do for coaching calls on these, that works out good too, So, Frank, is there anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I think I'm good. I just, these are really, really fun. I think by having these masterclass videos with, the members, I think it's going to work out like we talked about with a classroom setting. So, we didn't have that many people in today, but at least they don't have to wait. Like you was talking about, they don't have to wait, until you get it edited and get it back out. They can actually watch it in live or later on, and they can see the big difference when you do edit. What a big difference it makes.
Yeah, these are just master's class videos, which it's not important that they show up for the live. Actually,
right.
It's just important that we get it done. We're just giving them the opportunity to watch it live, and if they have a question that's related to what we're talking about, the questions they have could enhance what we're talking about, which would be good. But it just seems like they're mostly listening, which is completely fine. So it's not that we needed their participation. It's just that we're giving them the opportunity to watch it live. And like Frank said, I can post this on the website the way it is. At least you have it. You can watch it, and then I can go back, fix it up, and then replace it with this one. And that all works. And that way we're getting them out quicker. See, like right now, we're
Much
done with
faster.
this one. I can go now, prepare the outline for the next one, figure out when Frank has a day to do it. We'll do it, and we'll just get them out faster. That's the whole key,
Yeah, that saved them a week right there just by doing the unedited. Because after you do, if you took one of these and edited and put the charts and everything on there, they sat through and watched it live, they can see the big difference that it makes as far as when one's edited versus when it's not. So,
well, when we were doing this before, I got a little, I don't want to say nervous, but I was like, it's not the way I want it, because I am going to add banners. I am going to fix it up. I am going to edit it. And I was worried that, okay, they're going to watch it, the raw footage, for the first time, and then they're not going to watch it again, and they're going to miss out. Okay.
Mhm.
But what I'm finding out is that they're watching these things over and over and over again. And then sometimes they're watching it once, and then they're just listening to it over and over again. So I just figured, if this is the way we're going to do it, let's just do it. Let's just record it, have fun with it, relax. Down the road, they're going to get a better version of it. We're going to get them out faster. They have the opportunity to watch it, maybe get a few questions in. We'll do a Q&A at the end. I think it's a win-win, So I don't know, Frank, I think we rambled enough, don't you?
Yeah. Derek was saying that he had company tonight, but he didn't get to participate as much as he'd like. Thank for everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek.
That's okay.
That's fine, buddy. That's fine. You can get the next one.
Yeah.
We'll try to let you know.
Yeah, we know you meant well, and,
Right. Right. And we'll try to give you guys some leeway. As soon as we make a date, we'll announce it on the live show, so you guys can write it down on your calendars and maybe catch the next one. So we'll try to give you a little notice for it to where you can try to work out to where you can catch them.
So thank you for joining us, you guys. I hope this helped your understanding of the Founders Program and helped you understand Stage 2 a little bit better. We'll see you guys next time for the Masters Class video. We'll definitely see you guys this Thursday for the live show, and look forward to Frank coming and visiting with me, and I'm going to be visiting with him. We're going to have all kinds of good information there just for the members. And we got a lot of plans. This is going to be a crazy year, Frank.
It is. It's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a real fun year.
See you guys later.
See you guys.